Hi, Roy here. Thought I'd pop in and talk a little bit about The Wast Land by T.S. Eliot, the poem that's part of the T.S. Eliot in August month. That's an event organised by Thomas, Books, Art, Crime and Popular Culture, with co-hosts detailed down below. So I've been involved with that. Not as much as I'd like, but, you know, life. But yeah, I'm going to improvise a video talking about this poem, which is a difficult poem, and it's certainly proven to be quite sort of divisive in terms of how much people can feel they can engage with it or sort of enjoy it. I was trying to think of a way into this poem to at least have something to talk about. And next week, in the other event I'm doing this month, Garb August, is a week looking at apocalyptic trash. So I was vaguely thinking about apocalyptic fiction, you know, the kind of stories, whether they're on screen or in print, where the world has been changed. It's sort of been made less welcome to humans, either by, you know, some sort of destruction or alteration. It could be there's been sort of nuclear war, or a plague of zombies, or some sort of epidemic. Something has destroyed life as we know it, and some people are surviving and adapting, basically. So I was thinking about that kind of thing, and then began to think of this poem, The Wast Land, through that sort of lens. So purely rambling and improvising as I go along, I thought I'd have a look at The Wast Land in that sort of way. One thing to say about it is it came out in 1922, so poet and readers had lived through First World War, flu epidemic, etc. So in a way the world had been changed. You know, some of the progressive dreams of the 19th century in the West had sort of seemed to have foundered and been shattered, and the whole underpinning of things was changing. So some of the imagery in this does seem to fit into that apocalyptic model. Like, you know, dead land. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. So that's ambiguous, why a handful of dust would give you fear. But it's effective horror imagery, and obviously a ruined landscape is, you know, fits in with the apocalyptic vibe. And I guess there's been destruction, got a heap of broken images. So there were images, what was there before that's now broken, and now this is all sort of you know, just lying around. We're picking through it right at the end. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. So yeah, you know, so sort of life is being constructed out of the leftover bits, and we've got this world with the heat and the no water. It's inimical to life. Also, you get movements into mysticism, such as there's some references to images from the tarot, some of which actually are and some of which he just made up himself. So here is the man with 3 staves, and here the wheel, and here's the one-eyed merchant, and this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I'm forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man, fear death by water. I see crowds of people walking round in a ring. So think of Bob Dylan's Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, for instance, where a profusion of what you might call surreal imagery kind of emerges in the context of fear of destruction. And there's a sort of estrangement as well. There's things not working as they should. Like life and death seem to be inverted. Again, I'm thinking zombie movies. That corpse you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year? So it seems like the dead things are more living and the living people are more dead. So the natural order change, life becomes death. Again, classic apocalyptic stuff. I think we're in Rat's Alley, where the dead men lost their bones. And the ordinary things become terrible. What's that noise? The wind under the door. What is that noise now? What's the wind doing? Nothing again, nothing. So if it wasn't so early, I'd actually think it was kind of, if this had come out in 1962 or 1982, I'd think some of this was images of like, fear of radiation and H-bombs and stuff. Obviously it wasn't. There's a sense of things ending. Good night, ladies. The structures of things have been lost. And also, people have been debased and brutalised, so their behaviour is not noble or aspirational. So a lot of this is, a lot of the poem has sort of sexual encounters that are like horrible and the aftermath of them, and just a sense that people have become brutalized and they're just sort of getting by, I suppose. More rats. There's quite interesting juxtapositions of ordinary life stuff and mythical stuff. So you get Tiresias. There he is in Lego form. We has a sort of prophetic vision, so he's foreseen lots of things, including these kind of squalid and dispiriting bits of realism that you get. I, Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breasts, can see at the violet hour, the evening hour that strives homeward and brings the sailor home from sea, the typist home at tea time, clears her breakfast, lights her stove, lays out food in tins. Out of the window perilously spread her drawing combinations touched by the sun's last rays. On the divan are piled, at night her bed, stockings, slippers, camisoles and stays. I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled dugs, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I too awaited the expected guest. He, the young man carbuncular, arrives, a small house agent's clerk with one bold stare, one of the low on whom assurance sits as a silk hat on a Bradford millionaire. Funny, I was reading this book had a criticism of Bradford as well. What is it with Bradford? So this awful way that relationships seem to be irrevocably fractured is also part of this kind of mythical vision of the Tiresias dude. And so it goes on. There's a feeling of elegy, a kind of mourning for what's gone before. Again, the inversion of things. The landscape where nothing can live. Here is no water but only rock. Rock, no water, and the sandy road. The road winding above the mountains, which are mountains of rock without water. If there were water, we should stop and drink. Amongst the rock, one cannot stop or think. So you get all of that. You also, again, inversion. This thing, this part. Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together, but when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you, gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who is that on the other side of you? So on one level, it's another kind of horror image. In the notes that come with the poem, he says it's stimulated by the account of one of the Antarctic expeditions. I forget which, I think one of Shackleton's. It's related that the party of explorers, at the extremity of their strength, had the constant delusion that there was one more member than could actually be counted. So, unsettling stuff, but it's hard to not see the road to Emmaus and the encounter with the risen Christ as well in that. But obviously that's not horror, so it's like this kind of I'm going to say inversion again. And again, more apocalyptic imagery. What is that sound high in the air? Murmur of maternal lamentation. Who are those hooded hordes swarming over endless plains, stumbling in cracked earth, ringed by the flat horizon only? What is the city over the mountains, cracks and reforms and bursts in the violet air? Falling towers, Jerusalem, Athens, Alexandria, Vienna, London, unreal. So, that's my apocalyptic reading of the Wast Land. One of many possibilities. It's so, it's the kind of poem that throws out lots of potential meanings and ideas, and seems to evoke a strong reaction in people. But it does at least point towards some sort of hope with its last lines, shanty, 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 which is approximately the peace which passeth understanding. Not perhaps the happiest reading experience ever, but always interesting. Kind of poem I always come back to every few years. T.S. Eliot in August. I'll be back soon with something else.